Hello everyone and welcome back to the Questline Open. We are getting ready for day 2. I am Newbeat, joined here at the desk with AHJA and also Jag as we are getting ready for another set of matches. And AHJA, what are you looking forward to today?
It's going to be a really fun day. I think we saw some really strong teams coming in here, making it out of that original round robin. And so I guess before we really dive into any of the games here, I do want to make sure that we got Jag in here with us.
Oh, there I am. Here I am, guys.
Yeah.
I'm
there
happy
we are.
to be here. Good morning. It is early, but we got a great day of games ahead of us, like you guys are saying.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to get the day started with some very high-level Overwatch. We got day 2, start of the final round. And to start us off, we're going to have AHJA going up against TRQSTTHEPROCESS, and that is a just dynamite match to start, and it could be a possible preview of what we're going to see in the finals.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think one thing that's really important to note is, the group stage, it happened. It was a long day. Some teams, didn't do as well as we expected. Some did just as well as we expected. You got to kind of put that aside. I think there are some things you can take away from overall what we saw yesterday, but it's a completely new ball game here. Everyone is basically on the same level playing field. It's double elimination, so even if you do fall here today, in this first matchup, TRQSTTHEPROCESS, number 1 overall seed versus AHJA, which is the number 8 overall seed, which is pretty crazy to think about considering that, this is 4 parts of Redbird Esports. One of these teams is going to go down to lower bracket early on, but just as you said, this could be a rematch in the grand finals.
It really looks like there could be a situation here whichever team falls in that first match can just make a sweep right through the losers bracket and get right back to the top. So with that first match in mind, Jag, what are you going to be expecting between those two teams?
It's a matchup with kind of this EU contenders super team. You've got Psycho, I think the only active player in Overwatch League is playing this tournament with the Vancouver Titans, Dala from Falcon Esports EU, Quartz from O1 Esports, Krandop, who's, I don't know how, but somehow on the bench, I think one of the best main tank prospects in Europe. I know I've been a big fan of them since their days of Uprising Academy. This is a very, very good team, kind of brought together by Julian, who, isn't here with us on the desk right now, but I'm sure will be on the broadcast later today. But it's, again, that kind of question of how much time do they have practicing together. kind of seems like a bit of a pug team. Did very well during that group stage, went 7-0, but also had, I think, one of the easier groups overall. They were in Group A. They didn't have really that much competition versus teams we saw, especially like in Group D or Group C. So I don't think they were really pushed yet. I don't think they've really been challenged too much. AHJA had a much more difficult journey to get here. They had to face up against GeForce, which I think is one of the best teams in Tier 3, Tier 2.5, basically since the end of 2021. GeForce has been absolutely on a roll. I'll talk about a little bit about them later when we get to their matchup. So I think they just had, a harder schedule overall. And I think that, they have better synergy. I think we saw that they looked really in sync when they played more team-based compositions like the Rush with the Reinhardt. So it's really going to be kind of the same narrative that we were talking about a lot yesterday. Can newer teams be able to play kind of more mechanically and go through those 1v1 matches that they're winning? Or can AHJA just play better as a whole and be able to run over their opponents?
Yeah, the Rush seemed to really be playing into AHJA's strength. When they were given the opportunity finally to choose a map, they chose King's Row and Full Held, which I feel like is not really something we see every day. But there just didn't seem to be any sort of answer coming out to deal with this rush that was coming out for them. I think you're absolutely right. It is going to be up to Trust the Process to try and take that apart. And I'm sure, they've had a chance to see this play style they have now, whether they adapt to do anything with it. I know we talked about bringing out a Mei, bringing out a Symmetra, bringing out some sort of more crowd control to isolate and kind of punish the amount of aggression that was coming out from AHJA.
Yeah, and it really starts to be a Gig. Just ran in and did so much. I think you got to either cut off Gig from the support to the supports from Gig. Like, there has to be some sort of separation there to be able to isolate either the backline or the tank line, because as we saw yesterday, Gig just went on a rampage. We saw a few clips in that in the highlight video too.
Gig was absolutely unhinged yesterday. There was just seemingly no way to stop him in a lot of those games that we got to see Gig in. A lot of big shatters, a lot of big plays by the main tank, and like we talked about yesterday, Jag, the support lines for Gig as well did a really good job of enabling him.
Yeah, and it's interesting because 4 out of the 6 members are coming from Redbird Esports, a very successful collegiate and contenders program. One thing that I always like to know is, this is a new roster, or new-ish, I guess, compared to what they had before. A lot of those players ended up going to Overwatch League teams, so this has, been our only roster that's been together for a few months overall, but that's still a big advantage over these teams that are a lot newer. I think we saw really the strategy yesterday from Liar and RuPaul was just kind of, we're just going to pocket Gig until we can't pocket him anymore. We're going to throw all of our utility his way, especially the immortality fields that I think we saw come out were huge from RuPaul. A lot of the time Gig would get pretty weak, knowing kind of that, I've got the team at my back, I've got this immortality field that will keep me up no matter what for the next 8 seconds. Just swings, able to build up shatters really quickly, then gets the primary healing in from the Baptiste, and from there just able to continue to just run over teams left, right, and center. And that's why you have to separate them somehow. I think, you could use the Mei to separate Gig and try to get them down, but honestly, I think you go for RuPaul. I think that's the big thing, go for the head of the snake, try to cut off that main healing, to try to cut off that main utility that they have to keep everyone alive. And if you do that, it's going to be a much weaker AHJA.
Yeah, and with that, it's going to just be such a fun map to watch between those two teams because they're just so strong. So, AHJA, any other thoughts about AHJA versus AHJA in that first matchup?
I guess it's if you're dealing with RuPaul, is this like what do you feel about this, Jag? Is this like a double bubble? Is this just like full, the like Tracer, Sombra? How would you isolate RuPaul? Because it seems like, you can use a Mei, but also Baptiste has the Exo boots.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The Exo boots allow him to jump up, escape a lot of situations. I think the biggest thing is a dive comp or, the Wrecking Ball Chaos comp could work really well, because if you force Baptiste to use his utility really early on, he can be a bit of a sitting duck. He does have the escapability, but in general, the immortality field is used very early on in a fight. That is a huge win con that goes against AHJA. That's gone off the table for 30 seconds, one of the longest cooldowns in the game for just a basic ability. So I think you force that out early on, and then you isolate them. So maybe you actually do force them to use the Orc boots to get to high ground or something like that, and then you dive onto them there. Just forcing them out of position where they can't be saved, and making those abilities being used early on is a really great way to try to get any Baptiste out of the fight.
Yeah, it did seem like they felt quite comfortable wherever they were. Like they were able to, pour in a ton of resources into the tank line with impunity. It seemed like, we watched Gig and it was like, boy, I can't believe that Gig is alive. But at the same time, every fight was like, how is this happening? But at the same time, they're obviously feeling safe enough to continue this sustained support for Gig. So yeah, they definitely felt good about it. Apparently, they felt quite comfortable continuing that support.
Yeah, and I really think there's going to be a lot on Psycho today. I think, we talked a lot about AHJA just because we got to see them on the stream ourselves during our desk segment yesterday. I think, Psycho, again, is is the only player that's coming in from an Overwatch League team to this tournament. So there's kind of a lot of weight on their shoulders as a Flex DPS player to be able to come out here and put in a lot of amazing work. I feel like Flex players yesterday, kind of relegated to one or two things. We saw a lot of Echo, we saw some Sombra, we saw some Mei. There wasn't a lot of versatility, and when you look at Psycho's hero pool, I think one of the things that they are most known for is things like Doomfist, which is another thing that we talked about. We saw a little bit of Genji from some people, a little bit, kind of as comfort picks. I think Doomfist could be huge into a Rush comp, and I'm assuming AHJA's mostly going to run Rush. But you have to be really careful as a Doomfist, because if you go too deep, a little bit too close to the sun, trying to take out someone like RuPaul, they could try to evade you. You could be caught, up a creep amount of paddle, you're out of abilities. Doomfist is all about his abilities. When all of them are on cooldown, you're basically just an alt battery. So I really want to see how Psycho plays, and I really want to see actually how this team Trust the Process plays around Psycho. Like, do they play to enable him, or do they play more where Psycho's on his own and everyone else is kind of playing as a team? It's like a five-man squad versus just the one person kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, we saw the Doomfist not finding a lot of value on AHJA's pick on King's Row. Just kind of a little bit too much room for them to kind of find those slams and connect the rocket punches and things like that. So I'm curious if they are going to probably, I imagine, keep the maps away from things that allow AHJA to be comfortable in that way. Because I think the Doomfist is definitely can be so disruptive to that Rush composition. And it's, we talked a lot about RuPaul, but Lyre has been instrumental in allowing some of these, really aggressive rotations that we saw from them yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just in general, the team as a whole, was really strong with their positioning, really strong with their rotations. One thing, just really quickly, I want to note, we're actually down to 13 minutes. Wow, time has gone by so fast for that first matchup. I want to get to the other ones as well, but I think one last thing I want to note before we maybe make that transition is that Trust the Process has a big advantage in terms of they get to pick the first map as the higher seed, and I believe should be able to through most of the playoffs as long as they stay in that winner's bracket. They had the number one seed overall. That's a big thing to consider, and again, I don't think their group was as strong as others, but being able to pick that first map, start off with a win potentially off the bat, maybe play into their comfort picks like control maps that prefer a Doomfist or Doomfist is best on. That's a huge, big of a deal. It's not as big as, best of 3. It is a best of 5, so there's plenty of times for teams to make come back and go for those reverse sweep sort of situations, but just having that strategic advantage early on, it could be a difference.
It is going to be an absolute treat seeing those teams go head-to-head here in round 1. And as you mentioned, Jag, we should move on, take a look at the other matchups that we have upcoming today. And next up on the docket is going to be Dice Amplify up against Dysfunctional, the so-called stream team in this tournament. And once again, a very intriguing matchup coming up. Obviously, a little bit of a different feel. Dice Gaming looked really good for the most part yesterday. Kind of made me look foolish with a prediction near the end. But other than that, Dice Amplify, I think, is going to have a very strong chance at moving on through this match.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. I wasn't in their corner yesterday, even though I think this is a very talented team. I'm definitely in their corner today. I think one thing that's really important to know is they actually did get the first seed despite losing to Bay State. I think they won by a map differential of 1. So that's really nice because they do get a higher seeding. They are actually the higher seeded team coming into this match, I think, by 1. I think this is 4 versus 5, so not a huge difference, but still a difference nonetheless. They looked really good on Wrecking Ball comps. They didn't look really as strong on the double shield composition when they had to mirror match it on the second map. So that's probably something that they said, hey, this wasn't our strong comp. Let's try to avoid it today. We didn't really see them on Rush as much, so we'll have to see how they'd look if that comes to play. One thing to note is Petal did not play. Petal is on the starting roster. I think that's probably because of Collegiate yesterday. There was a lot of Collegiate matchups. They are a player for UTD full-time. I think they're actually at a LAN tournament in the Dallas area. I had a few other friends playing in that, UTA, the Firewall, which is the supporter group of Dallas Fuel. So there's a bunch of teams at a LAN event yesterday. So Petal coming into the mix. I'm really intrigued to see how that switches things up. If they play around a capacity style work, I think that's what Petal's known best for. Dysfunctional, the streamer team, as you said. Necros is the only active competitive member of this current roster from what I know. I know they have Guru as well, who used to play for Maryville, but isn't on a team right now. And then you have Kefri, who's known really for the Widowmaker. Red Shell is known for Lucio. Gale, who's known for Ana. How much flexibility is there, when you have players who are known so much for these picks?
Yeah, it really seems teams are able to get a pretty serious read on them probably going into it. They're going to be relying a lot on the mechanical skill. And I guess, when you're known so much for these heroes, it's not like they can kind of lean into, or maybe they will, but you wouldn't expect them to lean into the Chaos comp either, like this Ball Zenyatta kind of like a pick apart well-coordinated teams just with mechanical skill that we've seen some of the other like pub teams pick up.
Yeah, and you can play around these comfort picks. I remember Kefri was in Korean Contenders, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But when he came in for that team, it was literally, you're going to play Widow and we're going to play around you and make sure that you have all the resources you need so you can go for headshots. I'm not sure how much they can do that today, especially against Chaos comps, because Widowmaker, not as strong as she used to be. She was a 200 health pool at that point in time, now 175. There's been quite a few nerfs to her hook ability, so she can't get out as quickly. It's on a longer cooldown. I feel like this is going to be a match they're really going to struggle in if they try to play more for what they're known for. I'd love to see them, bring out something we're not expecting. I think that's going to be, if they have the surprise factor, maybe they can go for the upset.
That would be really cool to see if they could throw a curveball at Dice Amplify, because I think it would be extremely unexpected if they came out without some of the signature heroes that they are known for. And if it's all right, I'd like to move on to the next team in the bracket as we are continuing to take a look at the upcoming matches to start today off. And the third match of the day is going to see Hot Lava go up against Bay State.
Yeah, this one, I think this might be the second closest match, maybe the first one, honestly. I think that Just the Process and AHJA should be a close one. I feel like Hot Lava is one of the best kept secrets in this tournament. Hasn't gotten a lot of spotlight. I think they had one stream game on the B stream yesterday, which I got to catch. Honestly, this is like a NA super team for contenders. If Just the Process is the EU super team, this is the NA equivalent here. A lot of different components and pieces of teams that might have at one point been able to compete in this tournament. I think especially like you see a lot of Bear Claw Gaming here of Zira and Astronex, who have looked like the second best tier 3, tier 2.5 team, just below GeForce in my opinion, seeing them in a few tournaments the last few months. Thunder, who's previously on DICE, and then probably the biggest name I would say is Vega, who's currently on Wisp, has been with a lot of contenders team over the last year or two. They looked really good in that one matchup that I got to see them in. It was a 2-0. But I think Bay State, even though they're coming in as lower seed, I think they might have a bit of an advantage here. I think we saw yesterday they looked really, really good. They were able to beat DICE Gaming in that 2-1 reverse sweep. They looked so good on team compositions. Their double shield was like absolutely flawless. They looked really good when they ran the Wrecking Ball hybrid, which was not with the D.Va, but with the Sigma. So they play, kind of half dive, half just sit with your supports, I guess is the best way to describe it. They really have to understand situational play, though. They've really struggled on certain points of Nepal because they tried to run the D.Va in long distance poke situations against an Ashe Sigma, which really didn't work out. The Sombra play at certain points was kind of hit or miss. Looked really good as we got later into the series, but early on was a bit all over the place. The biggest thing is they don't have a crazy schedule today, or at least hopefully not as crazy as it was yesterday, because they played so many matches between this and Collegiate, and I think, with less on their plate, they might be able to play their best game that we haven't really gotten to see yet.
Yeah, I think having that focus today, they were definitely the team. I think they were still playing their matches even as we were wrapping the broadcast up for the day. So, not having to play a solid 8-9 hours is definitely going to be working in their favor. They did come in quite hot. Coming into the last parts of the day, they came in and won the rest of their matches after they had kind of taken that break. I think they took a bit of a break to play some of their collegiate round-robin games as well. They came in real hot at the end of the day. Hopefully they can just keep that energy up.
Yeah, absolutely. A good night's rest, that can do a lot for you. We talked about how to keep your mental going. Well, sleep definitely can help with that, being able to be rejuiced and regenerated. They lost to the Baby, which I think was one of the bigger upsets of the tournament, but the fact that they beat DICE, I'm not worried about them whatsoever.
A very strong team for sure. And with that, we are switching gears to the final matchup out of the first four of the day. We got G-Force going up against Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch, a little bit of an underdog, maybe not as expected as some of these other teams to get this far. And with that, that is going to add a bit of an extra spice to that game.
Yeah, I am so on the G-Force train. I've been watching them quite a bit. They are definitely a wrecking ball team. That's kind of what they're known for, is their cult of personality. But I think the biggest difference between them and a lot of other wrecking ball teams is, this is a team that's been together for a while. You see the way they play this comp, and it's a lot more organized. There's a lot more strategy involved with how they set up their engagements. And they have Magic Maple. I don't know how much more I can hype up Magic Maple on the flex support role. I think just one of the best kept secrets in NA when it comes to Zenyatta play. I'm really excited to see them pop off here. I don't like to count out a team before, it actually happens, where the match is actually played. I think Sucker Punch has the biggest hill to climb in this first round of any team. Got in on a 5-2 record, one of the only teams that do so. Lost the trust the process in OTC. If they were in another group, honestly, I'm not sure they make it through. I think this Group A was the weakest one, as I've said a few times. But this is the perfect time for them to prove me wrong, prove really everyone wrong here, make a huge statement win here, go for that Cinderella run. It's March Madness. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a bunch about how we always have a bit of a soft spot for the underdogs, and that is 100% the role that Sucker Punch is filling right now. And Angels, I know me and you got to cast G-Force yesterday, and their ball comp, as Jag said, looked phenomenal.
Oh, it was just relentless. There was no time for their opponents to, recollect themselves, regroup, get on the high ground. It was just constant aggression coming out from them, and you could see why. We talked about it even on the stream. It was rewarded time and time again. Their engagements were just so clean, and there was no room to breathe. They were just choking teams out.
Yeah, it's one of the cleanest wrecking ball comps you'll see in this, and I think it's because they've played together for so long. You've got a really good idea of the play style that your teammates have. One thing to note is this is a team that can be flexible. They are not wrecking ball comp one tricks. I have seen them move over to other comps when it's absolutely necessary. I just think that they prefer to play wrecking ball because that's kind of their branding. That's kind of who they are. But when worse comes to worse, they have brought up the Arista. They have brought out the Sigma. They brought out I haven't really seen them run Rush, to be honest, but Double Shield is definitely something that's in their wheelhouse. Will we see it today? I think it's as unlikely as seeing Torbjorn, as we were asked to talk about here on the desk. I don't expect we'll see Torbjorn. I don't expect G-Force will be swapping over, but you never know. If worse comes to worse, they do have the capability.
Stranger things have happened. And looking at Sucker Punch for a quick second as well, what do you think is going to be the key for them as that underdog to maybe pull up that huge upset?
I think they have a lot of kind of question marks on their side. Use that to an advantage. I'm not sure if they were on stream yesterday. I didn't get to see them on stream, at least. So I think, there's a lot of about, a lot of information we're in the dark about what they run, what they like, stuff like that. Use that to your advantage. There's footage of GeForce. There's a lot of VODs on GeForce from the last few months that you can research, really find a way to maybe poke and prod and find out some of their potential weaknesses and kind of execute on that. I think it's kind of like the stream team. You know, if you come out with something that no one is expecting, maybe you catch them off guard on that first map, and you can just ride that momentum throughout the series.
Yeah, that is a really good way to do it. You know, using that advantage of having the extra VOD reviews, trying to poke a hole or two with the current footage that you have, and, you know, keeping yourself shrouded in mystery, making sure that nobody knows if you're going to come out with, you know, a right hook or a left-hand uppercut or a sucker punch. I don't watch too much of boxing, so that analogy is starting to get away from me quickly. But I think it's going to be intriguing. You know, we always cheer for that underdog to make a kind of a Cinderella run deeper into the bracket. But I think as you said, Jake, the hill is going to be a very tough one to climb.
Yeah, but, you know, if you were able to even, I think the biggest thing is, like, you know, there is statement wins or statement losses. I think there's, like, good ways to lose. I think for Sucker Punch, if they can keep things close, take a map or two, you know, force that map 5, that gives you a lot of confidence, even if you do end up losing. You know, you don't want to be seen as the easy team to beat. That's the biggest thing. Or maybe you do. Honestly, sometimes teams can underestimate you, and you can take advantage of that. I think overall, though, you want teams to fear you a bit. You know, hey, this team was 5-2 during the group stage, but oh, they did really well against GeForce. Like, we can't take them lightly. That makes teams maybe question what they're doing, especially if what you're doing is unexpected. Maybe they try to mirror you, play around you, and then you force them to play to your style, and then you catch them off guard in the lower bracket. Or maybe they just go for the miracle run. I mean, we're looking for a St. Peter's here today. St. Peter's in March Madness has been absolutely phenomenal as the number 15 seed. Sucker Punch, they could do amazing things here. I believe they're like the number 7 seed overall, something like that. So, I think 6 actually. So there isn't a whole lot of expectations, and that's kind of the best place to be because, you know, if there's no expectations, everything you do is going to be incredible.
No pressure, it's all just loosey-goosey. You can lay it all on the line, leave it all out there. And the nice thing too is, with it being a double elimination bracket, you don't necessarily have to, you know, win out. You could lose the first game and then, you know, maybe the fairy tale run takes place a little bit later in the lower bracket.
Yeah, you do have that one extra life. You don't want to rely on it too much though, because once it's gone, it is gone for good. So there is a little bit of breathing room. You know, I think a lot of times first round matches when there is double elimination teams are more so filling each other out than really showing their true cards. I think they kind of save those tricks up their sleeves for a bit later on as they continue to go deeper and deeper throughout the tournament. But, you know, some of these teams, I think they're going to have to show their cards early. I think Sucker Punch and Dysfunctional, those are the two teams that really have to, like, bring their best foot forward today. Because I think dropping to the lower bracket for them is much more devastating than for other teams, especially knowing that, like, either Trust the Process or AHJA is going to be there no matter what. Like, that is not a team you want to face in the first round of the lower bracket. That is certain elimination unless you have the most amazing upset of your life. So just win for it. That's the best advice I can give to some of the lower seeded teams coming into this.
Yeah, because it's like Dysfunctional is going to be up against one of them in their, or not just one, Dice or Dysfunctional. Sorry, is like Dysfunctional would be up against one of them if they lose in their first map. So like, regardless, it's either Dice, Trust the Process, or AHJA are their first opponents. So that is going to be a tough day ahead for Dysfunctional, but. As you said, if they can come out and pull out some surprises, it could get really interesting real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I was going to say, with that, let's take a look at some predictions. Let's see if I can start my own comeback story, my own redemption arc with the predictions after how the end of yesterday went. And starting off with Trust the Process and AHJA, Jag, I'll leave it up to you to give the first pick here. How do you think it's going to go between those two teams? I know it's a tough choice.
You know, I'm going to say it's a ping diff. I think it's really hard for some of these EU teams to be playing on ping. I know that Psycho actually is, I believe, in Canada right now, so that could be a bit of a difference maker, but I'm going to give it to AHJA. I think it's going to be a very close match. I do think it's going to be a 3-2. But I think AHJA just has a little bit more team synergy, and I think that will be what pushes them forward here in this first match. I think Trust the Process will make that lower bracket. I think, honestly, whatever team loses here today will make that full lower bracket run to the finals, or at least has the best potential to out of any team here. But yeah, AHJA has my first pick.
And Aegis, what about you? What?
I'm not going to bet against Jag after yesterday. He made me look like a genius. So yeah, I do agree though. I think they're forcing, AHJA is forcing teams to play their game, and like pretty successfully. You know, they're not allowing themselves to be picked apart or forced to. You know, they're just out tempoing. It seemed like they were in control of the games. They were in control of everything, start to finish. It seemed like. I think that's going to continue, and definitely the pink definitely helps.
Well, with that, you're making it extremely tough for me because I either have to go with the flow or go against both of you again. And honestly, I think I've learned from my mistake. I'm going to take AHJA. I mean, Gig looked so good yesterday, and whether it was just him or with the support lines as well, I think it would be foolish for me to try and swim against that current again. So I'm going to go with AHJA as well. And that leads us into match number 2, Dice Amplify versus Dysfunction. I feel like this one's going to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, thinking about it, it's Dice. I think Dice wins in a 3-0, maybe a 3-1. But I feel like Dice just is overall the stronger team. I think there's some really great players on Dysfunctional. I think they've got some really great individual talent, but with kind of what they're known for and their hero prowess, it's going to be really hard for them to play more meta comps, and I think that's going to put them at a big disadvantage.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. It's going to be an uphill battle for them, and Dice just looked so good yesterday. Like they're just so cohesive as a team that I think I don't want to say it's insurmountable, but it will be a challenge for them. I'm definitely going to join you on Dice.
You know what? Let's keep that party going. I'm gonna take Dice as well. I think the fact, Jag, that you said that it could even be a 3-0, and there's a likelihood of that happening. I think that shows the difference between those two teams in that match. So far, we're all on the same page as we get ready to look at match 3 here. Hot Lava versus Bay State. Again, I feel like this one will be a little bit closer.
Yeah, this is honestly the one I'm having the toughest time picking, which is, you'd actually think that'd probably be the first matchup based on who's in it. I don't know. I really don't know. I think Hot Lava, again, I think they looked really, really good for a team that probably hasn't been together for too long. To go with Bay State again. I hate being the first person to pick. I don't have enough time to think here. I think I am going to go with Bay State again. I am just a proponent for believing in team play over individual skill. Not to say that Bay State isn't individually talented. They have a lot of former contenders players on that roster. I'm going to go just the Cave differential again. Cave absolutely fragged out in that last series. I think when Cave is alive, anything is possible for Bay State. And I think the fact that they're going to be much more well-rested today is going to be a huge difference maker. I think this will be another very close match. I could definitely see it going to 5 maps. I think Bay State, with the more team-oriented maps, like Hybrid, Escort, Assault, those kind of map types, I feel like they should have the edge there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree. I think Cave looked so clean on every single hero yesterday that it was oh, here's Cave on the May. All right, well, there's 2 dead. It just seemed to be kind of everywhere. So I think they're probably going to have the edge here, and I want to think that for the marathon that they had yesterday, they faced a variety of opponents. They've been able to kind of probably tighten up any of their compositional changes or anything they wanted to practice. That's a lot of practice against a lot of high-level teams. They're probably feeling pretty good coming into today.
Yeah, I'm gonna, once again, I think we got our team synergy together a little bit because I'm also gonna go with Bay State as well, and that is going to lead us into match number 4, G-Force between Sucker Punch and Aegis. I'll give you the first go on this one.
This one is, I'm going to say, less predictable, or I guess more predictable than some of our closer matches here. G-Force, an absolute gale force wind on this Chaos comp, on this Wrecking Ball Zenyatta. Sucker Punch, I want them to come out. I want them to come out swinging. But I think they're definitely going to have the most challenging day, as you said, Jag. So I'm going to lean on G-Force for those.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is I think that the other match that we just talked about, hardest match to predict. This one feels like honestly the easiest. I think it's going to be 3-0 G-Force. Sucker Punch, they're just the biggest unknown in this tournament right now. So if they come out swinging and they end up making me look like a fool, all the power to them. All of the momentum really in their corner if they're able to get this huge upset win here. But I just have a lot of faith in G-Force, specifically Magic 8-Ball. I think one of the star players that I really hope gets to shine more and more as we get into contenders later on this year.
And with that, I am going to make a hot take here, and I am going to take Sucker Punch. At some point, somebody has to go out on a little bit of a limb, and I feel like this is, the craziest limb to go out on, and I want to do it. But honestly, I've seen Sucker Punch play a few times. Like I've mentioned before, we have looked at their scrims as well. And I mean, Aspect and Havoc are a really talented DPS duo. And I think if I'm going to make the prediction, and I am, that Sucker Punch is going to pull an upset here, I'm going to hang my hat on that DPS line of Aspect and Havoc to see if they can carry them through.
Respect it. I would not make that bet, but someone has to do it, right? So finally, we're not all aligned on it. We'll see who's the prediction right at the end of the day. I mean, we could all, for all we know, we could be going into that last matchup and all of our predictions have been wrong. So that could be the difference maker where you're able to pull ahead here today.
I mean, if that's the difference maker, if that's where I pull ahead, that'd be pretty crazy. So
that's an exciting tournament.
Yeah, I'm gonna really hope it's fun because we have these hard predictions to make. There were a bunch of tiebreakers after the qualification stage, so it really shows to the parity in this tournament and the amount of talent that's on display.
I agree 100%. And also, we've got a lot of talent on the desk as well as in the casting booth. I just wanted to give a little shout out to JuggleGod, who I know had a very tough time yesterday with the fires in Colorado. Really happy to see him here today. Another shout out to LordThethan, who did a great job yesterday with Julian. In a bit of an unexpected combination of casters, but when you're a professional like that, that's what you do. You make the best of what you got. Teams here as well today got to make the best of what they got. Sucker Punch may have a harder time doing that. I'm still gonna ride that line of narrative until it burns out, but I'm just excited. It's gonna be a great day. Again, everything has been reset. Playoffs are a whole new world, and any team can come out on top. That's the best part about all of this. And there's $10,000 on the line. All the teams have already secured a bit of that prize pool, but that $5,000 first place prize, that's what everyone is going for.
That's definitely a little bit of extra walking around money if you can come away with that 5K prize. And I just want to say I completely agree. I'm glad to see that JuggleGod is back with us today. I am on record. I'm a big JuggleGod fan. I'm a big LordThethan fan. That is no surprise to anybody. But before we get into this first match, as the teams are just about ready, we are going to step aside for a quick break, and we will see you in a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, good morning and welcome to the Overwatch Questline Open. It is day 2 and we have moved on from the group stages to the playoffs. My name is JuggleGod and I am joined on the mic by LordThethan. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Juggle. I'm so excited to be here in the booth for day 2 of the Questline Open, watching the final stage here. We've been reduced to 8 teams now, and all of these rosters are just pure, unadulterated talent, just like what we've got on the desk as well. I gotta admit, Juggle, it's an early start to the day, and at least there on the desk for analysis, Jag briefly mentioned double shield. I found myself lulling to sleep behind my monitor, but I'm going to perk right up when I get to watch this matchup take place. It'll be Trust the Process versus AHJA, and I mean, what exhilarating gameplay to start off the day.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a really exciting matchup. We've got the number 1 seed going up against the number 8 seed, but normally I think you would look at this and give it hand over fist to the number 1 seed, right? That's just the way these brackets work. But AHJA, as Jag had mentioned, had a very difficult schedule, right? And so their group was just packed with talent. So that number 8 seed, a bit of a misnomer potentially, right? I think that belies the true strength of this AHJA squad. Let's take a look at this lineup from both of them, so we can take a look at what we're talking about, right? Who are the people that we're watching out for? And of course, on AHJA, that's going to be Gig, RuPaul, and Vision, in my personal opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you've got GTX and Liar to back you up, I mean, there's a reason that Gig radiates main tank confidence and energy there. Trust the Process has a couple of heavy hitters themselves. I know Jag briefly mentioned the versatility of Psycho. I'm personally excited to watch Dala and Crook in action there on the support lineup. I mean, when you're going up against a roster as stacked as AHJA, you need every helping hand you can get. And there's a lot to expect in terms of help from Trust the Process. You're absolutely right, Juggle. They did have a relatively straightforward endeavor through the Group A stage, but just like us here in the booth, they're looking ahead, and part of that road that lies before them, it actually doesn't involve dropping into the lower bracket. I think that although the desk are all inclined to think AHJA is favored to win this matchup, as all of the AHJA fans are as well, and Redbirds fans as well, I think that there's still a couple of surprises I think we can anticipate from Trust the Process.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think, they need to be counted out by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you don't end up with a 7-0 record, taking every single game 2-0, might I add, by accident, right? This is a very strong team. And, I'm curious to see, how they're going to deal with some of the, some of the strengths, shall we say, of AHJA, right? Can they mitigate RuPaul, right? If they can get in there, mitigate their effectiveness as a support, maybe without that support, Gig and Vision start to crumble a little bit, Maybe once they don't have the support behind them, they're not as effective. We'll just have to wait and see. Vision was on the Symmetra a lot yesterday. Can Trust the Process deal with that? Right? Can they find a way to mitigate Vision strength on that hero? So lots of questions going into this matchup. And, the desk mentioned it briefly, but let's talk, or they mentioned it ad nauseum. So let's mention it briefly. We are now in the tournament stage. So this is round 1 of a double elimination bracket. So whoever loses here, not out of the tournament, they're going to go down to losers bracket round 1. In the loser C1 slot. So that's where we're going to see them. They're not out of the running by any stretch of the imagination. And as Jag even mentioned, or alluded to rather, this could be a preview of the grand finals, right? Whoever goes down to the losers bracket here could very easily make it a full run through to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if I had my way, I'll be honest, Juggle, it would be for all of our teams to succeed today. But invariably, we have to see someone drop to that lower bracket. And you and I talked a little bit about this before we jumped into the booth, Juggle, is, you know, just that I don't think that this matchup ends up being a clash of the titans, if you will. One of these teams is destined to win. One of these teams is supposed to emerge victorious, and it's almost too intuitive that you shouldn't have to say anything. But whether it's AHJA or Trust the Process, whether it's by severing Gig's lifeline or by winning in the neutral, you're absolutely right. We will just have to see. It is a first to three, best of five, if you will, here in the final stage. So there's a little bit more margin for error. Things aren't so harrowing if you drop that first control point map. But still, the first control point, that first map, is going to be an excellent baseline. Jag mentioned this on the desk, is, you know, the opportunities that these teams have to really gauge each other's strengths here in the first round of the final stage. That's really going to be exemplified most as early as possible, and that would be in the control point game mode. I'm very excited to see these two teams clash. It's you know, honestly, again, the desk was pretty one-sided. I'm going to say it. Newbeat is a little bit of a sheeple there, as you can't stray away from the predictions of his contemporaries. I can't blame him. AHJA looked so good yesterday, and in the face of such immense adversity. We'll see if Trust the Process can look equally good against what is really, for me, Juggle, one of their best matchups.
Yeah, this is going to be quite an entertaining matchup. And, you know, we talked about potentially Trust the Process having a few surprises stored from them. Crook might be someone who I actually know very well. I sent them a message in Discord just to find out, but yeah, they may, as a matter of fact, Crook was one of my former coaches. So if that is in fact who that is, then I know they are a very, very talented support player. So I'm gonna let you. I'll update you all as we go to see if that is in fact the case. If it is, then I can't say enough good things about Crook's play, especially on Zenyatta. So that's going to be very, very fascinating to check out.
You know, the Overwatch has gone through a lot of changes over the years, but at the end of the day, principles really have stayed the same over the course of its very long life, at times grueling life. It's always been an era dominated by tank and support gameplay. I don't hate to be that guy. DPS, it's the worst role in the game. Vision has their work cut out for them, and with proper setups accomplished by Gig and plenty of sustain to be found in the AHJA roster, you definitely are looking at Trust the Process's DPS roster, at Psycho in particular, to help equalize the amount of pressure and off-angling and just raw damage that can be output. But you're absolutely right. In terms of the support gameplay, there's really, I think, all eyes should be on the supports for both of these teams. At the end of the day, you can't accomplish anything without a good Baptiste, a well-timed immortality field, the perfect sound barrier, or a marvelous, you know, a 4K healing transcendence, right? Just insane potential, not only in terms of raw healing uptime, but also insane utility usage. I mean, you don't need the Transcendence to mitigate a Nanoblade. It takes one sleep dart, and you know, it's a common call in my solo queue ranked games is someone dies to a Baptiste and they're like, yeah, that's a support hero. But at the end of the day, engaging in the duality of the support playstyle of taking duels against the enemy DPS players, thwarting an off angle as Zenyatta or Lucio, who I'm very excited to see in action today, that's always something to look forward to.
No, it absolutely is. You know, the sports a lot of times the unsung heroes of the Overwatch community, but you know, we'll be sure to keep our eyes on them today for sure. You know, I want to take us back a little bit to Vision now for a moment and to talk about them and their Symmetra play, right? Because I've been thinking, like, what is something that Trust the Process can do to potentially mitigate the effectiveness of the Symmetra, right? And, one of the first places my mind goes is to potentially like a double bubble or a dive composition, right? Get that Winston in there to, start to deal with that Symmetra, start to deal with some of those turrets. But even if you have, even if you do something like that and get Vision to swap off of Symmetra, they've got a great Cassidy as well, and that is very difficult to run into as a Winston, right? So, the depth of play as well that comes out from Vision, I think, is something that has to be commended, and I think we have to take into account as we look at this game as well. Like how is Vision going to adapt, right? And how will Trust the Process adapt as well, right? Overwatch is such it's a game of adaptation, right? And whichever team is proactive in that adaptation is potentially going to be the one who comes out on top, especially when we're in these upper echelons of teams where, it's just a sliver of a difference between the skill levels, right? So you're trying to min-max everything. You're trying to eke out every single little advantage you can get. And that's something that I think can, will certainly come into play is, how quickly are these adaptations made? And are they made correctly as well? Right? Do you make the adaptation in terms of the composition, or do you make it in terms of the way that you play?
It's all about those mid-game adaptations. But, let's, while we wait for the lobby to finish rounding out Juggle, let's take a look at the mid-afternoon here. Going back to the bracket, let's do a little prediction game of our own. Here between Trust the Process and AHJA, I'm going to, I'm not going to be sheeple like Newbie. I love him. He's so much fun. But I'm going to go with Trust the Process. I think that they'll surprise us with the caliber of gameplay that they're able to come up with today.
Yeah, I think we could very easily see an upset there, and we're here today rather. So that's this is gonna be quite an exciting matchup to take part in. Of course, we've got Dice Gaming coming up next against. Can we get that screen back for just a second? Oh, it's against Dysfunctional. Yeah, yep. Dysfunctional. Dice Gaming versus Dysfunctional. I'm gonna give my prediction over to Dice Gaming as well. I've seen Dice Gaming play a lot. I really like their style. I like what I've seen from them before, and I think they've got what it takes to stay in the winners bracket at least through this first matchup.
Despite my slander against Newbeat, I saw Dice Gaming in action yesterday. I have to look at them to win that matchup. But we all love content, and that delivered by the Overwatch streamers. It's so much fun. But these teams are playing to win, and I don't anticipate that match not being competitive. Don't get me wrong. But Dice, again, they looked really strong yesterday. I really don't think that things will change today. These players have gotten a good night's rest. They've they played a lot of games yesterday. Part of the value in playing organized competitive is that you always take things to learn out of your matchups. Dice playing as high a level as they do, they're no exception to that rule.
No, they absolutely are not. Let's take a minute now and look even further into the afternoon. Let's you and I won't be on these games, but let's take a stab at the other predictions. What do you say, LordThethan?
I'm all for it.
Yeah, we've got Hot Lava and Bay State going to be that third slot. And, I've cast a lot of collegiate Overwatch over the last year, and I've seen Bay State quite a few times. I'm going to give the edge to them in that matchup. I think they have what it takes. I think it's a very strong collegiate team. I've seen them perform well in collegiate tournaments. They're no stranger to high-stakes competition, and I think they've got what it takes to at least bring it out in this first round.
I gotta tell you, Juggle, my channel points are in danger. I'm gonna break the mold and say that Hot Lava has a pretty good chance to come out on top of that matchup, send Bay State to the lower bracket, even despite taking that map yesterday in their matchup against Dice Amplified. I'll be excited to see what Hot Lava is able to aptly respond against in terms of Bay State. Plenty of prowess on both sides. But Juggle, if we want to talk prowess, if we want to talk mechanical skill, insane game sense, let's take a look at that fourth matchup today.
Oh, absolutely. G-Force versus Sucker Punch. The desk talked about this one being a very, being I think one of the less clear matchups of the day, right? Potentially one of the most hotly contested. I'm going to give it to G-Force. I am just going to come right out and say it. I love what we've got from them. But it looks like we may be ready to get into the game now. It appears that we've got the pings sorted from both of the teams. So let's take a look at our map order for day. We're going to start things out on Control, moving on to Escort, Hybrid. If we need it, then we will visit the much dreaded Assault map, and then back to Control to finish things off if a fifth map is, in fact, needed. We're going to start things off, though, on Lijiang Tower. And looks to be, I think first it was Night Market. I just got a small glimpse of it through that window as we loaded it. And yes, it is, in fact, Night Market. Lots of different things you can run here, but right now, both of these squads coming out with a brawl.
Yeah, Juggle, I hate to break it to you. You got to reverse your contacts again. This is Control
yeah, it's Control Center.
And these are Control Center compositions. Look at Psycho there on that Junkrat, but J-Mars is ready and able on the Doomfist. See if they can break up the composition of AHJA.
We're going to see AHJA pushing forward very aggressively to start things out here. They're going to get to the high ground first. They're going to take firm control over it, but not for long as Gig goes down very early. And with Gig out of the fight, Trust the Process is going to push forward very, very aggressively. 3 picks on the board for him. Make it for it. With that, Trust the Process will take first control.
Yeah, and that was, we talked about a little bit, Juggle, kind of severing Gig's lifeline. Not necessary when Gig is free swinging as they want to, as they should, as Reinhardt. All you need is oppressive amounts of damage dished into them to slow them down. That's first progress to Trust the Process, but a quick retake here into ultimates. Both DPS ults online here for Trust the Process.
We're going to see Crook pop the amplification matrix right off the bat. It's going to be Psycho throwing in a lot of grenades through it. So much damage coming in, but it's going to be J-Mars who gets the first pick. Psycho now going to use that Rift Towers. Let's see if they're going to find any value. The Immortality Field's still up. It goes down at the last moment. The pick will come in for them. AHJA at a severe disadvantage at the moment. Trust the Process just has to clean these last few up. We're going to see J-Mars come in with the Meteor Strike, but it's not going to yield anything. Gig will go down, and with that, Trust the Process takes the second fight.
Yeah, this makes me a little excited for 5v5, a little less visual effects clutter or vomit, as some players referred to it, but that was really good patience from Trust the Process, and I mentioned earlier winning fights in the neutral. They were really staged to win that fight as well. They were equipped with the ults, they managed to wait out the photon barrier from Vision, and then after that they're just able to go in full aggression. Now AHJA wants to mirror that aggression for the next push.
That they do, but they're going to have a hard time because they don't have quite the old bank that Trust the Process does. We're going to see 3 of them thrown out almost immediately. It's going to be Dala with the sound barrier. The self-destruct will catch one. That's Vision out of the fight. GTX is out of their mech as well. Now we've got a big disadvantage once again for AHJA. They're getting pushed back, and we are in last fight territory now, LordThethan.
Yeah, and the real deficit here is that Trust the Process has the Photon Barrier and the Amp Matrix. You'll see Crook use that Matrix in response to Vision's Photon, or maybe just to open up the fight early here and make sure that they stay on.
A nice pin comes in from downtown via Gig. J-Mar is going to be removed from the fight, though. Jero misses his pin. That's going to send him towards the back line. But in the meantime, picks coming in favor of Trust the Process. Rick Tire going to help finish things off. And with that, the first sub-map goes to them.
Really good stuff from Trust the Process, albeit leaning into the meta game that Control Center and Lijiang Tower as a whole fosters so incredibly well. But you know what? A composition only gets you so far. After that, it's down to how you play it. Trust the Process again. And I told you this before we came online, Juggle. For them, it's about winning fights in the neutral. It's about making sure that they are in the positions they need to be in. Look at the insane amount of distance that Gig needs to cross, and then on top of that, how much damage is going into them while they cross that distance. Main tanking, it's honestly not too fun right now, and that's all that Gig wants to have. They just want to have fun. So here, as we see these mirrored brawl style rush compositions already engage on the point, we'll see if Trust the Process continue to hold. Ooh,
look at that. We're going to get a pair of environmental kills coming out from both Dollar and Liar to start things off. These are going a little bit more in favor of AHJA, though. At this particular moment, they're going to have control over the point. Dollar going to have to back off just a little bit. And AHJA will win this first fight, but they're not quite going to come away with control. It's going to be contested at the last moment by D.Va. Can they get them off the point? They're going to be able to. AHJA does end up with control, and they get a bonus kill in the process.
That's a marvelous stagger that AHJA secured as well. Great stuff from Liar. I talked about this yesterday with Julian. It's just, I'm here for the aggro support gameplay, and Liar's absolutely meeting those expectations. I do admit I really enjoyed Trust the Process's disengagement there. They know when to cut their losses, but they're ready to go back in.
Oh, they absolutely are. We're going to see Liar going in for an environmental. Not going to get it on that Reinhardt. The Steadfast going to be a little too much. JR going to win the Ryan 1v1 this time around. RuPaul pops the amplification matrix in response to some of their teammates starting to go down. They aren't able to save them. It's going to be Trust the Process taking this point.
You know, yesterday, Vision's Symmetra looked utterly unstoppable, but I gotta say, Ubisoft is really making a really good mirror matchup for AHJA. Albeit a lot of those picks were off of the Amp Matrix that Crook had placed, but you know, it's just, again, Gig has to fight through so much damage. At the very least, they'll be coming into this next fight, AHJA, with a Sound Barrier and the Earth Shatter. J-Mars is ready with the Blizzard in case they need it.
That they are. They're going to have to make sure, though, that there's Trust Me is either out of their mech or out of the way before they try and pop it, because I'm sure they're going to have their defense matrix primed and ready to go. We're going to see the Photon Barrier committed. Shatter is going to be laid out. That's not going to find any targets this time around, but the Blizzard is able to get at least one. Sound Barrier there from Dollar to try and keep Trust the Process up. The Immortality Field has to be used by AHJA as well. Now we see the Amplification Matrix used by RuPaul midway through the fight. That's going to give a severe advantage to AHJA. As we can see, Jeru's shields going down very low, but they use the Shatter at the last second. Sound Barrier does come in from Lyle. That's going to save Jeru, at least for the moment. They're not going to be able to survive too terribly long. Another self-destruct gets thrown onto a point. This one's not going to get any kills like GTX's did. 67% on the board now for Trust the Process. AHJA falling by the wayside. Now it's going to be the Trust the Process coming away with the fight win, and now AHJA's left in last fight territory one more time.
That is crazy. Look at the amount of opposition on both of these teams, and Ubisoft still able to sit on this Photon Barrier, just waiting to put it up at the right time. It was J-Mars getting caught out, unfortunately for them, and the Venn diagram of the Blizzard cast. Trust the Process at a really good advantage, but AHJA with the Amp Matrix will be able to equalize.
Beautiful teleport on the point from AHJA. That's going to get them there in the nick of time. And completely full rotation on the point as well. We're going to see Ubisoft take out RuPaul, but they're going to be traded out very quickly. The Blizzard catches several members. Psycho gonna be the one who seals the deal for Trust the Process, and they will go up by 1 point in this first to three.
Wow. What a great series this is already turning out to be. Trust the Process. You know, honestly, I'm not too surprised that they pick up this first control point map. For AHJA, again, they have the margin for error. It's fine for them to drop this. They'll look really strong heading into Hybrid and Escort. You know, I gotta say, as a fellow BAP enjoyer with, I think, a 40 win rate in competitive, I feel for RuPaul. The Amplification Matrix there in that last fight was just cast in the midline of Trust the Process. So it definitely looking forward to a lot of Amp Matrix assists accrued for them over the duration of the rest of the series. But it's definitely going to be made, those casts are going to be made a lot more simple heading into the next map types that foster the more team play oriented style of AHJA.
Yeah, that is a very good point. That could very well play to their advantage. We are going to be headed to Escort Nap. It will be AHJA's map pick as well. So, you know, if you are AHJA at this point, what are you thinking in terms of map pick? How do you potentially get Trust the Process off kilter a little bit, right? We've only seen the brawl come out from both sides at this point, right? And you know, does AHJA start to rely on maybe some of these other compositions that they like to run? Do you try to take it somewhere a little bit different, or do you double down on your Brawl?
Hey, Jag talked about this on the desk earlier, that you know, these teams might be waiting to play their aces until they're in that lower bracket, until things are down to the wire. In the finals, in this final series, you know, I think that for AHJA, they've already demonstrated so much. These are players that are well known as well. If you're even remotely familiar with the Redbirds, then generally you know the approach that AHJA wants to take. I think that at this point they double down. I think that we need to see a Havana game played next, and not one where you see double shield compositions. Unfortunately, I won't get my dose of the Dom Robotical Distillery liquor. I'll be getting the scenic view from the heights of Watchpoint Gibraltar.
That you will. It appears that AHJA wants to take things in a completely different direction now. They said, you know what, Brawl might not be the answer for us today, at least on control point. So instead, we're going to head to the high grounds of Watchpoint Gibraltar, where Dive reigns supreme.
I'm excited to see Watchpoint Gibraltar. We didn't get to see, I don't think, well, at least I didn't get to see this map yesterday when I was casting with Julian. And just real quick, shout out to Julian as well. Trust the Process is, you know, it's Questline opens Julian's very own Open Division team. And so it's great to see that squad in action. Anyways, heading to this next matchup, it's interesting pick here for AHJA because just that Reinhardt, it becomes more or less viable the longer you go through Watchpoint Gibraltar. At least starting here on the attack, it's going to be more of that verticality approach for both these teams to opt in to the fostered strengths of this map. So surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, we see Gig on the Winston for a dive defense strategy here. I love the Vision Symmetra. I know I'm going to love the Vision Ashe.
Oh yeah, this will be exciting to watch for sure. They've shown quite the prowess on whatever hero they decide to pick up. Double Bubble going to be the name for Trust the Process coming out here. This composition going to be moving a little bit slower than perhaps AHJA's will be. It's going to be all about charging up that bubble, charging up that nano boost, and then throwing all your resources into Jeru. Cart's going to start to move a little bit. No hard commits yet, just a soft dive to start things out. Ubisoft trying to get in a little bit of damage as well, starting to build up their ult charge. And Jeru dives in, gonna be booped away at the last moment. Gets a little bit of a charge for Trust Me. They're gonna eat the business end of an anti-nade though. That's gonna cause problems for them. And it's gonna be J-Mars who actually picks up the first kill. But already we have to look at, I think, the supports. Despite AHJA taking this first fight, level 1 Crook has gotten a significant part of the way to their nano boost. But RuPaul just about to lap them.
Yeah, it's off the back of some pretty significant bionades that have connected early in some of these fights. Part of the reason that Trust the Process has, you know, kind of relatively been a little bit slower. AHJA might look slow on their defense, but it's really just waiting for that opening. Trust Me now on the Diva as well instead of the Zarya. It's a step in the right direction, but they sacrificed some good self-destruct ult charge for it. Now it's just about finding the dive.
We're going to see the nano boost committed early, but both supports are going to be deleted by Trust the Process. Can a nano boosted Gig turn things around for them? They go down to just under 100 HP. It's going to be Bob finishing things off for Trust the Process. Jeru out of the fight, but they're looking pretty strong at the moment regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we do get to see a contest of the objective here, especially now that GTX is back in mech. That's plenty of point presence as Gig reconnects. They'll have the Primal heading into this fight. Trust the Process is only down a Psycho at this point.
Ubisoft briefly flirts with disaster, but they're going to be healed back up. Vision, however, not going to be quite so lucky as a primaling Jeru is able to take them out of the fight. We're going to see the nano boost and the rally committed by Trust the Process. They would have put this fight to rest right here, right now, but Liar and Gig making it very difficult for them as well. Jeru going down dangerously low. Can they survive? They are going to get healed back up. Ubisoft, with just a sliver of health, comes back into the fight as well. And with that, Trust the Process will take the first point. Whoa!
Nice
Oh!
destruct from GTX there. Just, kind of hey, you guys win this point, but at least I get my, at least I pad my stats a little bit. I gotta say, you had Jeru going in with the nano, and then as well, their health pool is padded with a little bit of armor HP. That is ridiculous. That's a main tank right there, and now they are ready to shed more blood. Look at this aggro position that Trust the Process is maintaining. They'll as well have Bob and self-destruct into this.
We're going to see both committed right away. Trust me, with just a sliver of health, they're going to be able to remech. But in the meantime, 2 go down by Ubisoft. That's going to be both supports out of the fight for AHJA and Trust the Process. It's just going to be a few members of Trust the Process left standing, and they will be able to continue to push this card.
What an impeccable Bobcast. That was a beautiful position to throw that ultimate into. We saw the self-destruct proc from Trust Me as well, but, it's all DPS picks here. Still one final contest starting here with a nano boost onto Gig.
You're going to be able to get that Primal Rage built up relatively quickly as well. We're going to see Trust Me get demeched and de-lifed as well. Just a few meters left to go, but AHJA has control over the cart once again. Going to see Crook committing the nano boost, Dala using that rally as well. Trust the Process wants to put this cart right through to point 3 right now, but they're coming up against some tough opposition. It's not going to last too terribly long, though. We're going to see one final contest coming in from J-Mars, but Dollar has their mark.
I'll tell you, man, Juggle, there is nothing that makes my heart sink faster than hearing that someone on the enemy team loves teen men. I mean, it really is just... Rally is just, for multiple reasons, Rally is just such an incredibly powerful ultimate. Dala is building it up so quickly as well. Not only is Briggs' healing potential through the absolute roof, but, they're breaking the glass ceiling of the collective health pool of Trust the Process as well with all of that Rally armor.
We're going to see Trust the Process go down early in this fight as well. Another beautiful anti-nade hits from RuPaul. They just about have their... Nano Boost ready to go again, just as Gig gets their Primal. This is going to be a slow demise of Trust the Process, but they've got 3 minutes to get it halfway through point 3.
And this is interesting, Juggle. This is really the first fight that AHJA has really looked a little bit more comfortable. Ironically, it's on this third objective where you would see a Reinhardt come out from either side. But AHJA is stacked in terms of the ultimate economy right now. Currently, just a little bit more favored. It's not about the ults, though, or the amount that you have. It's about how you use them. I'm very excited to see Gig juggle some folks with the Primal.
As am I. We're going to see a Bob committed early on. They're going to have to wait for that Primal Juggler. Here it comes, though, from Gig. We're going to hear the Rally committed as well. Gig goes down early. Crook able to take them out of the fight right after their nano expires as well. Flyers pop the Rally, trying to push forward as well. Big anti-hits. That's going to cause a few players to back up as quick as they can. No supports left for AHJA. Once again, Trust the Process all but has this completed. They're going to finish with potentially a sliver more than 2 minutes on the clock. Make that exactly 2 minutes on the clock, LordThethan.
I mean, if we want to be pedantic, we can say, that was 2 minutes and 0 point, however many seconds. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt there, Juggle. What a great push from Trust the Process. At one point, you've got to talk about the momentum that they had coming into that last objective, but we have to recall what I had mentioned as far as AHJA sitting on a couple of meaningful ultimates into that last, into what ended up being that last fight. For AHJA, it's interesting. I do have to ask why pick this map when you could play that star brawl composition on a map like Havana. Hell, go to Dorado and do the red building close hold. That's something that you could possibly get away with. Put vision on that Symmetra. Not saying that that they don't devastate on the hit scan roll, but I think that. Like I said, it's an interesting pick this map. AHJA looking a little out of place on that defensive dive composition, partially just because, you know, Ubisoft, Psycho, constant menace, Dala, constantly building up that rally. But I think that things correct themselves here on the attack. I think that this is really Rupal and Liar's time to shine here, to enable the dives for Gig and GTX.
Let's see what they can put forward here on attack. Gonna see Rupal already starting to get quite a healthy ult bank built up, 16% just in these opening seconds. Ubisoft going down early, that is a big opportunity now for AHJA to start to push in. They're gonna have a lot less to worry about when they dive in. Liar gonna be able to take Dala out of the fight, but Gig dives in, bites off a little bit more than that monkey can chew. GTX gonna be able to follow up that dive though with a nice kill. It's gonna be Jeru though, in the meantime, who's found a lot of value in the backline of AHJA, taking out both support.
It's Gig and the comms going, off the back of my sacrifice, we find victory. You know, what are you doing on main tank if you ain't feeding a little bit? And Gig is right back in the formation for AHJA. That dive worked exactly as AHJA needed it to. They're going to be able to pad those ultimates, build up this nano, and get Gig to re-engage here soon.
We're about to find out where Gig wants to re-engage. They've got themselves primed up on the high ground. Now we're going to see Vision trying to push away the dive coming in from Jeru as well. Now we're going to see the nano boost committed onto Gig. They're going to dive in, try and cause a lot of damage on the back of a beautiful anti-nade from Rupal once again. GTX going to be demeched, though. That could cause a lot of problems for AHJA. Trust the process, pushing back in. Jeru asleep on the job, though. Presumably the nano boost on them as well. They're going to dive onto the high ground, but not find any value there. But you know what? AHJA hasn't gotten the card pushed much further forward. In the meantime, 2 picks coming in now in favor of Trust the Process. We got the self-destruct committed Gig just booping people around as much as they can. They take Trust Me out of the fight. But when the dust settles, the card really hasn't moved a whole lot.
No, but AHJA has, they've rustled the jimmies, if you will, of Trust the Process's formation. The neutral here is set to be won by AHJA. Now it's just we're looking at the pulse bomb and the rally to make sure that AHJA lives through the mid fight and is able to get pickoffs in the early fight. There's that pulse bomb deployed, though. It doesn't quite secure anything.
Not going to find anything this time around. We're going to see the rally now committed to try and give a little bit more mid-fight presence. Self-destruct has to be committed by GPX on the back end of themselves getting demexed. Jeru now dives in, but look at how quick their health just disappeared. They have to get out fast, but it's not going to be fast enough as GTX chases them down. They're going to pay for it, though, with their mech as a couple of players from Trust the Process find them out the card, now inching ever closer to that second point. And I think Trust the Process just barely has enough time to try and stall it out. Dollar now the raid boss with the nano boost committed onto them, trying to survive as long as they can. They've bled precious seconds off the clock, but at the end, AHJA will cap.
You know, finishing with a time bank on Watchpoint Gibraltar, that's pretty meaningful, but you know what? Finishing it all, that's the step that you need to take. Little things, so, you know, focus on accomplishable goals here to start off with. That's the name of the game for AHJA. Despite being down 1 member heading into this next fight, they've got ultimates to compensate for that man disadvantage. So this is really where momentum picks up. Getting stymied on this streets phase of Gibraltar, that would be a death sentence here. They've got to play really smart. And once again, they're staged to win this next fight too. Ooh,
that they are. We're going to see the pulse bomb get eaten by Psycho. Beautiful, or GTX, beautiful play there from the off-tank. Gig goes down. There's an anti-nade that's going to cause a lot of problems for the backline of AHJA as well. They're not going to be long for this word. Liar does have the rally, but with only 1 member down, do they want to use it? They do, as a matter of fact. They're going to pop it to try and turn things around in favor of AHJA. Trust Me goes down. Dala goes down. This could be AHJA swinging this fight back in their favor. They've got the picks. They've got the card under their possession, and they've got Trust the Process on the run. We're going to see Trust Me trying to dive back in, but they're going to risk their life at the last moment. Now GTX causing so much mayhem for Crook. They're not going to be able to heal Trust Me, and with that, the point gets capped.
Well, and there we go. One of the questions from the chat earlier this morning answered. AFL Lutz, there's our Torbjorn dosage for the day. Ubisoft flexes onto the hero, is already 81% to ult, doesn't get to reset with the rest of the team. I got to talk about that rally from Liar as well. You mentioned that they were down a couple of members, and Liar, their armor stats aren't padded off of it, but they were able to stay alive, and that healing uptime, the ability to stay in the engagement is so important for the Brig player here for AHJA. Now we just got to not lose Gig.
Oh my gosh, Gig asleep on the job once again, despite all the mayhem going on around him. It's going to be J Mars out of the fight. Jeru has the Primal Rage and the Nano Boost committed to them. Trust the process, coming up with a fistful of kills. GTX trying their best to survive now in this back corner, but it's all going to be for naught as they are demeched and sent back to spawn. After a brief nap.
Yeah, getting a little bit of rest. Hey, no staggering in scrims. Oh, wait, sorry. This was, bro, as GTX gets staggered, Crook still has armor HP. That has dissipated now, but Dala is already 38% to that next rally. Absolutely insane. Again, the engagement for these support lineups, it's insane. And we haven't gotten to talk enough about Rupal's Bionades either. Now, we will get to talk about swaps on the composition, however. You've got Jaru on the Horsey, classic Orisa Diva composition for defense, and trust me, is operating with a self-destruct ready to throw. Not the game, but the process.
Trust the process looking in charge in terms of the ult department. AHJA has the Bob ready to go. Rupal building up that Nano very quickly, but this post bomb, huge, no more DPS left for AHJA. GTX out of the fight. Trust the process, gonna win this one and continue this defense successfully.
Small attainable goals though, right? That's what I mentioned earlier. Winning with a better time, or I'm sorry, capturing third with a better time bank. That's no longer viable for AHJA, and like I said earlier, that's perfectly fine. They just have to finish this map. They have a couple ults to push into this next fight. Really, the fights that they've won, again, I told you about this before we came on, Juggle, it's all about how they stage to win this. Going into the Molten Core, however, for Trust the Process, that's a little scary.
That certainly is. They definitely had a plan, though, and they are trying to execute it right now. Gig going to be delivered with an Animus. Beautiful kill right onto the Crook. Nice. Dollar going to pop the rally in response. It's just Briggs online for both of these teams, but right now, AHJA has the one-man advantage. Gig going to dive back in. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on this Trust the Process crowd, especially after that. Nice dynamite hit, a beautiful dragon strike from J Mars, and you know what? AHJA might not have 2 minutes on the clock, but they will come very close to finishing. They will, in fact, finish. That's just a minute 15 separating both squads.
I think it was in the DICE versus Bay State game with Julian yesterday that we had talked a little bit about time banks, and I had mentioned that, depending on the matchup, an extra minute, 15 seconds, it's everything and it's nothing, right? Yesterday in the Bay State versus DICE Amplify game, it ended up being absolutely nothing. It was a 1 minute, I think 43-second difference, and Bay State was still able to attain a 72-meter hold on Junkertown, and so we have to think about the principles, the precedents that come with that when we look at a matchup like this one. And we're going to get a brief pause here, wait for a player to reconnect. It goes back to, again, a little bit of a ping diff, if you will. That's my favorite call to make in a comp game. When I make a mistake, I can just blame it on ping. Going back to this matchup and the time bank that they have to operate in, I think that these teams are really both so talented, and they're coordinated as well. We see that AHJA thrives in the team-based team-based compositions. That's why, even though we might be a little bit more strangers to Gig's Winston, it's still attaining value. So at the end of the day, 2 minutes to one, I gotta say, that's not everything. That's nothing. If the dives are as impeccable on the attack as they were on the previous round for AHJA, who will be going on the the attack first, then they're looking really good to equalize the series.
Yeah, that's true. They absolutely could. Now, I am going to play the counterpoint to your point now, LordThethan, and say that, in my personal experience, I feel like the more time each team has in the bank, the less the time difference between the two matters, right? So if we were in a situation where it was like 2 minutes versus 3.5 minutes, right? I'd say, okay, both teams have a very equal opportunity, I think, to come away with something here, right? But when you're looking at just 1 minute for one of these sides, that's one good fight, maybe two, right? That means, they're going to have to win it in the neutral fight, or in the neutral fight. And so, that goes back to a point you made earlier in the broadcast as well, at the top of the show, that, that AHJA, they're going to have to, or rather, trust the process, they need to win these neutral fights, right? So if they can win this very first one against AHJA, that's going to put them in a much more dominant position, I think, right? Trust the process. They're going to have an opportunity to build up ults and build up an ult cycle with 2.5 minutes on the clock. AHJA, not quite as much.
You'll be able to count on the nano boost for sure, and possibly Liar's rally. JMars might be able to get that pulse bomb if they stick to the Tracer, which I would love to see them stick to the Tracer. She is, she's arguably one of the most difficult heroes in the game. I'll never complain about seeing good Tracer gameplay like we've gotten to see from JMars and Psycho. No, you know what? You're absolutely right, Juggle. I love it when people fight me, and especially when you do as well. You're so wise. But it's like I said, you're absolutely right. The thing that I ultimately have to go back to, right, and this is another call that I love to make when I play the Assault game mode. One of my personal favorites, and I mean that unironically, guys. I do like 2CP.
It's true. He said that as long as I've known him.
I know. Imagine not capturing both points of 2CP in the year of our Lord 2020. I'm sorry, 2022. Holy moly. Jump back in time there. And so in that same vein, the full hold on first point of any escort map, it's not a complicated endeavor, but pushing all the way to the end with only a minute in the bank here on a second attack round, that's perfectly viable. Let's see if they can get it done. Albeit losing Gig here kind of sucks.
Yeah, but at least you lost them very early in this fight, right? This is going to give them a quick reset opportunity to come back in this. Not much time has been burnt off the clock, right? They're going to get their 1.5 fights in, right? We saw the half fight. Here's going to be their big one right here. Rupal's been able to build up about halfway to a nano boost. Vision about halfway to a Bob as well. But Yubasol has that Deadeye just about ready to go as well. 20 seconds left on the clock. Dive coming in now from Jeru. It's going to be Gig now pushing in with GTX heavily on that high ground. Picks coming in for each side. GTX looking to be on the brink of a DMEC, though. AHJA not quite able to get the momentum perhaps that they've needed. 3 seconds left on the clock. GTX is down. Is there anybody on point from AHJA? JMar is going to be the last person to touch right there. Crook has the nano boost ready to go for Trust the Process. That could seal the deal. Gig going to be boosted now by RuPaul. They get the nano boost online in the nick of time. Going to be JMar going down. Vision with a big dynamite, though. That's absolutely huge. Bob going to be committed on the point. Crook going to be able to remove them from the fight, but Vision coming in huge for AHJA right now. Dala commits the rally as well, but there's just too many members of AHJA alive and on point. Vision going to be able to take Crook out of the fight. Dollar not going to be long for this world as well, but they do have 2 tanks with them trying to desperately stay alive on point. Jeru has the Primal Rage. They pop it, but they just got hit by an anti-nade from RuPaul as well. A furious fight taking place now on the choke to this point. Gig drops back. They are able to take Dala out of the fight. Primal Rage still going furiously. ETS a post bomb by Psycho as well. Liar now with the rally, keeping things alive for AHJA. Once again, it's gonna be AHJA capturing the first point against all odds.
There we go. Imagine not capturing the first point of Watch Point Gibraltar with a minute in the bank in the year of our Lord 2021. Rupal sitting on another nano, and the collective health pool. I said 2020 again. It's 2022. and the health pool of AHJA was still at that time as the doors open, padded by rally armor.
We're going to see the fight break out almost immediately after the last one ended. Trust Me has already taken Vision out of the fight. GTX's DMEC. This could be as far as the card gets now for AHJA. Trust the Process has come back, retaking control of it very quickly right at the gates of second point of Gibraltar.
I I'm looking. Sorry, Juggle. I'm currently looking for things to praise, but that would launch me on at least 12 tangents, one for each of these players. AHJA, I can't give him enough credit for that first point capture, especially considering how flimsy the dive defense composition looked, and then transitioning into attack, how quickly the issues kind of got rounded out there. And we talked a little bit about mid-game adaptations. AHJA is epitomizing that to the nth degree here. Trust the process. This is a tough matchup for them, arguably the first serious opposition that they're going to be playing in the Questline Open tournament after again a relatively straightforward Group A stage, and they're coming in clutch. I mean, they woke up today, or honestly, they've already been up, I think, and are ready to game. And if there's anything gamers do best, it's rising above adversity. I think Trust the Process are more than equipped to make a similar push against AHJA, but over the course of this series, already AHJA have identified those win conditions, playing around the flexibility of Psycho, making sure that Liar gets to live. An influential defensive bionade from Rupel kept Liar alive on this catwalk, is part of the reason why we saw the rally come out when it did for AHJA. So let's see if the defense dive composition works out a little bit better here as AHJA mounts their defense.
We're going to see a soft dive coming in now to the very first bridge, that high ground. It's going to be Jerry dropping down almost immediately afterwards. Gig jumps in to try and get a little bit of damage as well, briefly giving a taste of their Tesla cannon to Trust the Process. Dynamite going to be thrown in as well. Trust the Process able to get the card quite a bit of progress already. They're now within 2 fights. Roughly, of taking this map. A minute and a half left to go. Now we see some action really starting on the high ground. They want to keep control of Blue Box. At least Trust the Process does. They've got it right now. They want to keep it out of AHJA's hands. RuPaul going to commit the nano boost now onto Gig. They're going down very low, very fast. They eat an anti-nada as well. Jeru does too. They're going to drop down into the back line. Picks come in for each side. It's going to be Dala and Gig out of the fight. Level 1 Crook has this nano boost ready to go for Trust the Process. They could commit it now. Jeru going to be diving in very hard. He's going to be met by the off-tank GTX, though, trying to get to that oh-so-squishy backline, but they're going to be just a little too far away. In the meantime, though, a couple of picks come in onto AHJA's DPS line. GTX out of mech now. They launch the self-destruct to get back into it. But in the meantime, Jeru's able to take GTX out of the fight, so they won't be returning to the warm comforts of that mecha. Meters away from completing. 30 seconds left to go. Can't Trust the Process. Keep this up. Can they get the staggers? Can they get the last few picks? They get 2 of them, courtesy of Psycho's Pulse Bomb. The card's still moving for them. I don't think AHJA has any hope of touching it. That's going to be Trust the Process going up 2-0 in this first to 3.
So I mentioned a couple of times that there's a little bit of leniency in this final stage here, albeit only in the first round. It is still a first to 3 instead of to 2. So, I mentioned you can drop that control point map and, move on from that, evaluate what that path to victory really looks like. For AHJA, they're working on it. It's the information is rolling in. They just got to finish processing and then develop a solution there. But that margin of error, it's gone now. We're in map point territory, Juggle. And it occurs to me why I keep saying 2020. It's because these compositions look like they came out of that year. I'm loving this kind of default into a more classic style Overwatch. But I'll be honest, Juggle, I am eager to see a return to Rush composition.
Oh, are you now? Well, we are going to be headed to Hybrid next. So if Rush is what you are craving, well, there's a King's Row that I would like for you to meet, and I have a feeling there's a very strong chance we are going to be headed there in just a few short minutes. But we are going to take just a few short minutes to give the players a little bit of a break, give you all a moment to hydrate, drink your water, and give ourselves a little bit of a break in the booth. So stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with what could be the exciting conclusion of this matchup. AHJA on their heels right now, coming up against quite the opponent, quite the foe in Trust the Process. Both of these juggernaut teams are battling it out so far. It's a 2-0 affair. Trust the Process in the lead. This is the do or die time for AHJA, LordThethan.
Yeah, and the only option here is to do this matchup. Whether you want to buy into the crazy superstition or not, it was fated to happen. One of these teams, obviously, one of these teams is supposed to win, right? And you and I got to talk a little bit over the break about how AHJA's looking, how they're doing. I got to ask Juggle, because you've played an organized competitive Overwatch, an experience that unfortunately I haven't gotten to have quite yet. How would your mental be? It's an early morning, early start to the day. The last thing I want to do when I wake up is play Overwatch right off the bat, but here we have all Here we have all of our contenders already at their PCs and warmed up as well. Is the PMA really going to come through for AHJA, or do you think that it's going to be coming down to a more tempered focus? That the comms are more, let's get it together, guys, and win this third map.
I think regardless of what I would do in this situation, right? Because let's be honest, for me, early mornings do not typically mix. So my mental would be shot even before I booted up my computer. But these players, they're pros, right? These are some top Overwatch players. Their mental, I think, is going to be rock solid. I think it's going to be very much down to business. Let's get this done. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your head in the game. Now, one of the things that I think we have to talk about is some of this aggression that we've seen coming out from Gig so far in this game, right?
I love it.
Gig, his aggression has been, I think he's been punished a little bit for his over-aggression, and I think that Trust the Process has been able to pick him off a few times, and that, maybe they need to put the brakes on a little bit as we head into this third map. We will be going to Blizzard World, LordThethan, so lots of different options in terms of what compositions you could run, but I think that if AHJA's coming back in this, they need to put the reins on Gig just a little bit here on Blizzard World.
We saw Watchpoint Gibraltar on that latter round, the second defense round for AHJA. That there was a little bit of capitalization onto Gig's hyper aggression, right? You had Vision able to come in on the Tracer and find an early pickoff. I'm pretty sure it was Vision on the Tracer, but I think that you are onto something here, Juggle, Oh, sorry, I fell asleep at my monitor again. It's not going to be that rush composition that I find so exhilarating, reminiscent of the GOATS era Overwatch. Long may Brig live or die, rather. And it looks like, at least for now, a double shield mirror matchup, which can be exciting, especially when played between two high caliber teams such as these. We've seen AHJA just suffer a little bit, but we can't count them out quite yet. Overwatch, it turns on a dime, and in terms of mid-game adaptations, both of these teams playing as high a level as they do, they're more than equipped to make calculated responses to each other, and I think that that's what we are seeing from Trust the Process in particular. They've identified Gig as part of their win condition. Man, Juggle, I wish people looked at me like Trust the Process looks at Gig when he goes on a dive or an engagement.
They can't take their eyes off him. No, they really can't. I love that. I love that little comparison right there. You're absolutely right. Gig is, it's the main tank's job to take the brunt of the aggression, right? But Gig is definitely, I think, biting off a little bit more than they can chew. Either that, or Trust the Process is just putting them in a position they don't want to be in, right? So, what's the response to that? What's the adaptation that gets made here? Right now, it looks like the adaptation is a double shield, right? Let's just throw everything out the window that we've done so far, right? No dive, no brawl. Let's go to a third option. Let's go to double shield. And I like this kind of adaptation coming in. Whether or not double shield is the answer, is the key to the solution to the problem, if you will, on attack is another question. I personally think there are better options, but it can be done, and it can certainly be done at high levels as well.
Well, the default to double shield, I think, is part of a collective effort for AHJA to retake control over the tempo of these team fights. We saw on Watchpoint Gibraltar that when they were positioned, when they were putting their allies in positions that they could succeed in, we think about Rupal's bio-nades, whether offensive or defensive, Gig's dives being capitalized on by Vision. They found themselves succeeding in those team fights, almost clutching out that win, and able to withstand really an onslaught that Trust the Process represents in this matchup. I think that with potential questions that can arise of where do I position, how do I rotate, the complicated or answers that are complicated, say on a rush or a dive composition, particularly a dive composition, those can be made simplified by opting for a more traditional double shield style comp. I got to be honest. I'm still waiting on the edge of my seat for a more brawl-oriented style to emerge from really either of these teams. We saw Trust the Process put up a really good mirror matchup to that rush comp on Lijiang Tower. Really for AHJA, this is, they've mirrored us pretty much on every strategy that we'll play, that we've played so far. We'll opt into the double shield, we'll get them to do the same thing, and then we'll just beat them in that mirror matchup. But then you're down to that question again is how do you respond to the responses that Trust the Process has in these fights? They are setting up to win these. And in that vein, Juggle, I think that we do have to talk a little bit about the matchup between the DPS rosters. Ubisol and oh goodness, it's going to come to me. Ubisol and Psycho.
Psycho.
For Trust the Process.
On Trust the Process.
Are just absolute beasts. J-Mars and Vision, they've each gotten moments to shine in this series so far. But I think that we do actually, despite the fact that I said earlier DPS is the worst role in the game, I think that we do have to pay a little bit closer attention to the DPS players on both these teams.
Oh, absolutely. You can't take your eyes off them for a second. Both in game and out of game. If you do in game, you're liable to lose your head and be sent back to spawn. I like what you said about AHJA, potentially slowing things down with the double shield, right? And how when they got staged, they found success, right? Using a double shield, that's going to allow them to control the tempo a lot. It's going to slow the game down considerably, right? That's going to allow them to have a little bit slower tempo, which I think could benefit them. We're going to see Trust the Process already pushed up onto point. Gig is going to use their Fortify early on in the fight, already taking a considerable amount of damage. Trust me, now forced to use the Kinetic Grasp to try and take away some of that aggression that's coming in. Immortality Field finally has to be used right by Rupal as several members go down low. Amplification Matrix now up by both sides, but it's going to be AHJA's who popped theirs first. That strikes first as well. The Process gonna have to go back to spawn.
Yeah, that's a support hero right there, as I hear so frequently. That was marvelous. A beautiful rotation. GTX ends up getting sent to spawn in the latter stages of that fight, but, even despite Gig's now higher uptime, they're still leading in terms of tank ultimate percentage in the entire lobby. So that was marvelous to have GTX kind of on that off angle with J-Mars on the Tracer. It forced Trust the Process to use a lot of essential cooldowns. Trust me, got a big kinetic grasp, but it still wasn't able to live through it.
No, you're absolutely right. They weren't able to, mitigate that damage that was coming in from Rupal after popping that Amp Matrix. We're going to see a couple picks coming in early. No break to be found anywhere, but as the dust settles, AHJA once again coming in with the fistful of kills. That's going to be Trust the Process not finding any success again.
They do end up accruing 49% progress. It could be 50, but at least you got 49.2. There's an even number in there somewhere. There were ultimates that AHJA had to commit there to equalize. Maybe a healthier ult cycle could be expected from them, but hey, if that's what it takes to win, that's totally fine. Gotta watch out for Psycho's Blade, though. That's going to be destructive.
It absolutely will be. It's going to be popped early on here. Lyre uses the rally in response, but they're going to be sliced in half. That's going to be a Bob kill coming up as well. Ubisol finding the picks they need. Trust the process. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, and there's your first point capture as well. And now we see the this commitment to strategy there. AHJA knew that GTX and Vision and JMars operating on that off angle succeeded in that first fight, but unfortunately they're just not present to help against the Blade. Even if it was a lost cause, I think that there might have been more to gain than by operating on that off angle. Still a reasonable hold here, and Rupel's coming into this fight to stabilize with an Amp Matrix. Ooh, watch out for the mirror dimension here, though.
Oh, yeah, we're going to see a Pulse Bomb come in. It's not going to find any kills this time around. And Matrix now on the high ground. That's going to keep AHJA at bay, at least for the moment, until they get theirs up and running. Now we've got Tree Trunks getting amplified via this Matrix Vision, finding a lot of damage that forces Trust the Process to back off momentarily. In the meantime, JMars has gone down. They're going to swap over to the Genji to mirror Psycho now. Fortify has to be used. Here comes a Gravitic Flux as well. That's going to find several members, and with that, AHJA finds the hold.
Yeah, that horse is flying and not galloping anytime soon here for Trust the Process. This is a reset, although good progress here on Streets phase. And again, every fight that Trust the Process comes out where ultimates had to be expended from AHJA is still, ultimately a net win, especially when you're operating with a 230 time bank, right? At the end of the day, though, neither of these teams are really sparing any of their expenses, and that's, that is competition really manifest between both these sides. It's Trust the Process to make this a quick 3-0, emulating the speed of their 2-0s all day yesterday, as well as AHJA making sure that they don't drop this series this early on.
We're going to see a Dragon Strike thrown out early. It's going to separate some of the members of Trust the Process, but they reconvene afterwards with impunity. Now we're going to see a engagement coming up on the high ground. It's going to be a Gravitic Flux thrown in, but it's not going to find the end of it as they are stunned out of it. Trust the Process coming away with a couple of kills. That's going to lead to a third and likely a few more.
Wow. I wish I connected with people like Trust Me connects these hyperspheres. That's absolutely nutty. And look at this as well as we talk about the staging, right? The neutral fights here. Ubisol and the rest of Trust the Process are already set up to move this objective, not by putting bodies on the cart, but by putting people on the high ground. This is putting their teammates into positions that they can succeed in. And now here's your frantic push on a point from AHJA.
There's going to be a pick on either side right now. Gig has the supercharger out and using it to its full advantage. Just 0.8 meters left to go. That is the Trust the Process capturing it eventually. AHJA forced to back off, but just 2.5 minutes to get it all the way through third.
As a horse enjoyer myself, it really pains me to see the superchargers deployed, and I'm just not seeing as much value attained out of them as I really wish I could be seeing from Gig. Who we look at the interview that they had yesterday, so much confidence, so much bravado, and I really want to see that in action. Whether or not they're doing a little bit of the feed on the main tank role, it's at the end of the day they need to be able to play the video game, and that's all I want to see at this point from AHJA. It's going to be able to be accomplished here now with the Flux from GTX. Can it be big?
We're going to see a supercharger used as well. That's going to get that Flux online very quickly. Just 1 more percent to go. There it is. It's going to catch several members of AHJA. They meet the ground and their demise. A beautiful Flux coming in from Trust Me, the namesake practically of this team, leading them almost to victory. Can anyone from AHJA even touch?
Well, now they're going full stall composition just to connect, but they're not going to be able to roll out fast enough. That's absolutely tragic, especially considering that Rupel and GTX were both sitting on their ultimates into that last fight. I'm a Zen main, so, you know, Doomfist players and we are born enemies. But you know, I'm not going to lie. I was excited to see Vision's romp on the Doomfist there. Get to see some early pickoffs and possibly a stabilization from AHJA on this third objective. We go back to Watchpoint Gibraltar, you know, when we talked about kind of compartmentalizing the objectives, the recipe for success, if you will, and part of what has to be put into that pot is the win condition now for AHJA that they have to capture with ideally a minute or more remaining, but you know, now again going back to simplify things as much as possible. If, for example, with the double shield that we mentioned, at least capture that third objective. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, Juggle. If they don't capture with any time remaining in the bank, they won't have an opportunity to win this third map.
No, you're absolutely right. They have to finish with time. Otherwise, the best they can hope for here is a draw, which will keep them alive in this, in this winner's bracket, in this upper bracket, rather. So they're going to be maybe not happy with the draw, but they'll take it if they can get it, right? Minute 18, that's what Trust the Process put on the board. AHJA going to opt for pretty much the exact same composition as we saw Trust the Process with. In fact, Jamar is going over to the Genji as well.
Ooh, I did not know that my Sunday afternoon needed a little bit of the Jamar's Genji, but hey, I guess I know that now. Very excited. It's there's no damage amplification to be tethered onto the onto the Dragon Blade. Oh, there's not going to be a Dragon Blade anytime soon either. Look, they're already gone. Man disadvantage right off the bat, and a quick disengagement from AHJA considering they lost the Immortality Field.
Quick disengagement, but maybe not quick enough to save every single member. Vision does go down in the process, and AHJA forced to back off almost completely. Nice push there coming in from Trust the Process. 45 seconds burned off the clock now. We're going to see AHJA try to push back in. Rupel almost has this Amp Matrix up, and that's going to allow the rest of AHJA to get charged. Looking for it to come right as they turn this corner and start to push in. Maybe when they get to point. That's likely a better place for it. Glad they waited until then. As is Gig. Huge picks coming in very quickly. Dala and Jeru out of the fight. That Amp Matrix doing exactly what it needed to do, and AHJA will very quickly take first.
You know, I gotta pat myself on the back a little bit. I said early in the, I think I was on Lijiang Tower, I said I'm very excited to see Rupel accrue consistent Amp Matrix assists as the series goes on from that one misplaced Matrix there on last fight of Lijiang Tower Gardens. And hey, prophecy fulfilled. Now we just need to see AHJA push unfettered through Streets phase, which is a little bit harrowing. This double shield composition on Blizzard World, albeit despite the fact that this map fosters a lot of different compositions, double shield on defense of Blizzard World is very strong.
Oh, it absolutely is. One of the strongest places you can have it. Speaking of a strong place for double shield, Bob works well there as well, but Lyre going to be able to take them out of the fight very, very quickly. Going to be an early advantage here to Trust the Process. They're going to turn that into an even bigger advantage as this fight goes on. Immortality Field briefly saves a couple of members of AHJA, but Trust the Process has successfully defended, and look at this form position they're getting ready to take.
You know, this is the close hold. You'd see it on maybe Dorado. You definitely are going to see it on Havana. Still kind of wishing that we had gotten to watch that map for our escort game mode, but I'll bite my tongue. And now it's the forward hold here. Amp Matrices coming up, and Vision ends up going down to Pulse.
You know, this is tremendous. Even if Trust the Process goes down here, they have forced AHJA to expend so many resources just to try to get to the cart, and it isn't even barely out of spawn. Gravitic Flex going to be used by GTX to try and capture a few members of Trust the Process. It's going to be a nice Dragon Blade that's going to get a kill onto Dala. Jeru falls as well. AHJA might be able to turn this around in their favor. A couple of picks coming in their favor, but again, Trust the Process were able to bleed a lot out of AHJA to just get to the card here, and this fight still isn't over. Trust the Process has a chance to come back in this.
No, they're not worried about getting staggered or being late to the next engagement, because look at how much progress the card still has to attain. Trust the Process has at least bought an additional fight here. They purchased, or Psycho purchased rather, a second Pulse Bomb. That was one at the beginning and one now at the end of the fight, before the dispatch. Again, that's a support hero right there. But things are set to turn around here for AHJA as they commit the Supercharger.
Yeah, because of that very forward position Trust the Process took, they weren't able to quite get control of this high ground, and AHJA's taken that to their advantage. But with RuPaul out of the fight now, things could turn the other way. We're going to see Gig use that Supercharger for AHJA to try and push things forward, but going to be taken out of the fight. Trust the Process gets a pair of kills to try and turn things around. Trust Me briefly stunned, but they're going to be able to weather that storm. GTX taken out of the fight as well. And with that, Trust the Process will pick up another defensive win.
Yeah, and the card is advanced to pretty much where Trust the Process had originally gotten slowed down on their own attack phase. Things are looking really good for them on this defense. Trust Me coming up on another Gravitic Flux. We might see a nerf to Sigma's ultimate just because of Trust Me on the Sig here. Absolutely insane how quickly they're building them. But Lyre does have the rally to mitigate the follow-up damage.
We're going to see an early pick in favor of AHJA. Gravitic Flux now committed by Trust Me to see if they can turn this around, but the Immortality Field is there. Excellent use by RuPaul. Lyre going to pop the rally as well. That's going to allow them to push forward, but massive Pulse Bomb from Psycho takes out 3, and with that, Trust the Process holds again.
Oh, trust me, give them the 6K. Give Psycho the 6K. They're popping up. They're demonstrating versatility and prowess on the support on the DPS role. They're supporting their team for sure. I mentioned this earlier. I keep saying that. I'm just a big old box of repeats today. Tracer's so incredibly difficult to get value out of, and Psycho's really making her work in this lineup.
She really is. I mean, with as much CC as there is in the game, it's very hard to get out of a super squishy character like that. Speaking of super squishy, Dala is out of the fight. With that, Trust the Process on their back foot. Lyre gonna be picked as well. 2 picks on either side. Make that 3. Trust the Process with a 1-man advantage. But with Bob, that turns into a little bit higher of an advantage. And with that, they take the win. 30 seconds left to go. This is AHJA's do or die moment. If they can't get a fight win here, they will go down to the lower bracket.
Yeah, and that's not part of the plan for this tournament. That's not the win condition. They want the rematch against GeForce. They want to continue competing, playing against other incredibly talented players. It can't end here for AHJA. They've got to make something happen. Gig has to be able to play the game with a Supercharger they'll be able to envision with early pickups. Look at that!
That is absolutely huge. Now they just have to make sure they have touched the card. They've got it under their control once again. Supercharger committed by Gig, but it's going to be Trust the Process coming back in this fight. They've turned around what looks like a hopeless situation into one where they may in fact stop AHJA cold in their tracks. Overtime ticks over. That's going to do it. Trust the Process will go on in the winner's bracket.
And what a great showdown, Juggle. It's phenomenal to start the day off with this caliber of Overwatch gameplay, with this kind of action. That's the triple Pulse Bomb. Absolutely devastating.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, and Trust Me doesn't give Psycho the 6K. I'm sorry. But, you know what? Team synergy was displayed by both these teams and quickly dismantled as well as Strife manifests itself in the midline of the formation of Trust the Process. This is my prophecy here going forward. There's just a severe disconnection between Psycho and Trust Me, just for the not giving them the 6A. A little unlucky, but it's phenomenal stuff that we got to see from Trust the Process. You know, we're beginning to learn why that all those games yesterday they played in Group A stage were decisive 2-0s. And you know, honestly, we thought AHJA was the aggressive team coming into this matchup. Turns out it's Trust the Process.
Trust the Process did a phenomenal job today. They're going to move to the semifinals. They're going to be facing off against the winner of our next game, Dice Gaming and Dysfunctional. Whichever one of these teams ends up going against Trust the Process, I got to tell you, they're in for a tough time. You know, Trust the Process to me, right? Like, you know, I feel like if we were to anthropomorphize. We're gonna go with that. Each of these teams, you know, Trust the Process was like the, you know, like the cool collected, college professor who's got it all down. They just follow the instructions, things work out. Whereas AHJA, they were like the young upstart looking to rock the boat, and this time it was the shall we say the measured and standard ways that won the game today. I think trust the process. They do it by the book, and it looks good when they do it. It looks effortless. That's the thing, right? Is so far trust the process. They made it look smooth and effortless, and that's what the scoreline shows as well. They have yet to lose a map in this tournament.
That's crazy, actually. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
that's 17 maps. 17 map wins. 0 map losses. That's incredible.
Absolutely. They're looking like a really heavy hitter in the tournament so far. And, as opposed to yesterday, I would say that the loss here for AHJA, isn't quite as devastating as it actually turns out being. They will end up dropping to that lower bracket. There still is a chance for a comeback for all of our AHJA fans, as well as our Redbird enjoyers. Keep a keen eye on the matches as they continue today and next weekend as well. There's still more to see from both of these teams, but there's more to see from all of our teams this afternoon. We're going to throw it back to the desk here, and when we come back, we'll be bringing you the Dice versus Dysfunctional game.
Hello and welcome back into the desk. Thank you, JuggleGod and LordThethan, for bringing us through that map. And for us, a little bit of a surprise. 3-0 for Trust the Process over AHJA, and honestly, a pretty convincing win for Trust the Process.
Yeah, it was very convincing. I would say, Gibraltar in particular was a bit closer than the other maps, but Lijiang as well as Blizzard World seem to be much more one-sided affairs. Clearly, we did not expect that. None of us predicted Trust the Process to win. Clearly, we should have trusted the process. Not only that, but we all thought it would be at least going the full distance to that 5-map set. Instead, pretty clean 3-0 to start out the day. I think there are some things that we can talk about that really went into this. But I think one of them is, it just looked like AHJA looked a bit tired. We talk about how Bay State later we expect them to be a more lively team today. I think really maybe the early time zone of being, playing early on really affected AHJA and kind of their playstyle, especially in that first map Lijiang. I noticed it seemed like those immortality fields that were on point yesterday seemed to be a little bit late. In general, they weren't playing together nearly as well. So there's a lot of things that went into that, but I think that is one thing we got to touch upon.
It definitely is a way that allows the rest of the dominoes to fall. We were talking about how well that AHJA supported Gig in previous matches. And, if that immortality field's not there, then maybe that Gig goes down, which Gig did at times in this match. And that starts the snowball rolling in the wrong direction for AHJA, and they couldn't really recover from that.
Do you think that might be a result of just some more pressure on RuPaul, like we were talking about a little bit earlier? Are we seeing the result of teams adapting to their play style, or is it just a little bit looser today, do you think?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that Psycho had an outstanding performance today. That was the one player that we highlighted that had to really, step up to the plate. Absolutely did. I think they really had 2 goals. One, outduel JMRs, which I would say 70% of the time I think they did. We saw them best them when they played Junkrat into Doomfist, when they did the mirror against Smeg, when they did the mirror against Tracer. A lot of the time they were winning that duel straight up. And then when you have that pressure kind of out of your face, you could just go straight in for the Baptiste, and that's kind of what Psycho's next goal was, pressure RuPaul into positions that RuPaul didn't want to be in. You saw, I think there's one really good point on Blizzard World where RuPaul's trying to get away after the cat first point, and the Sigma and Tracer are both there just pressuring them out, and unfortunately nothing could save them at that point. So I don't know if they listened to our pre-game ramble, probably not, but they definitely did what we said they should do.
100%. And now Psycho and Trust the Process are moving on in the upper bracket. And at this point, is there anything they have to change at all, or do they just have to keep trucking forward? Because it doesn't seem like they're making very many mistakes.
No, it doesn't. And I think the thing that's most impressive about this win is they won on Rush, which was kind of what we assumed that AHJA would be best at. And then AHJA goes to Gibraltar, which is really surprising. We were all surprised about that. I think they were trying to counter the fact, okay, we lost on Rush, well, we can win on Dive, right? Like, they're basically trying out every team comp they can except for Wrecking Ball there. They go to Double Shield and Blizzard World, and they lose out on all of them. I think that's a huge statement that shows that, you know, hey, like, maybe this is more of a pickup team that we see from Trust the Process, but they play everything to a T. Like, there was nothing that really stood out to me and said, all right, you know, this is a group of people that have never played together before, haven't played together very long. They looked just as coordinated, if not more, in this standalone matchup than AHJA did today, or it definitely did against AHJA today, but overall, like, they did not look like a pug team whatsoever, which I think is the scariest thing if you're going up against them. And one thing to note, again, is they're the #1 seed, so they will always get that first map pick. That is a huge advantage to hold on to.
It makes me wonder if cycling through these maps, you know, looking to pull Dive on Gibraltar, Double Shield on Blizzard World, is AHJA anticipating that they will be meeting again later in the tournament, and maybe just trying to force some looks into the different compositions and kind of poke and prod at, like, okay, well, you know, we lost in the mirror for Rush. Okay, let's see what Double Shield looks like. Let's see what Dive looks like. And, you know, we'll see you next weekend, and we're going to prepare a little bit better for whatever looks the weakest.
You know, that's definitely a real possibility. I think it's a little bit of that, as well as, you know, just trying to see if you can find something that works in the moment. You're trying to, you know, it's a win now mentality, but if that's not going to work out, at least you'll have this footage of kind of learning from your own mistakes on these comps that you didn't really bring out yesterday, as well as seeing how you could potentially beat Trust the Process later on. You know, it looks pretty solid right now. I think one thing, but big thing I would say is don't run Doomfist on Lijiang Control Center. I think that was a big swing and a miss. I've only seen it work once in recent professional play, and that was, like, I think Hydration against the San Francisco Shock, and then that was his only professional game that appeared in the Overwatch League 2021 season. So I think that it's like, one, you can kind of learn from your own mistakes from this, but two, you definitely have now a good idea of what could be brought out from Trust the Process on map types that prefer those different compositions.
I am surprised that they didn't stick to Rush. The King of the Hill map type, I find, just plays so differently than some of the payload maps. So it surprised me a little bit that they didn't kind of just take another run at it. They were able to not necessarily force it, but just continually succeed with it yesterday in basically all situations, including, you know, they didn't pick very many maps yesterday. So I am surprised that even if it didn't work for their first map, that things didn't change.
Yeah, and sometimes the strategy is, hey, like, you know, maybe this is a map we don't scrim very much. We have that extra tournament life. Let's get some real-time practice right now. Let's see, you know, if we can make this work, and if not, then we have this thing to work on later. Again, it's very scary because you do have that one life, and now it's gone. So you know that your one last chance is now, that's all you got left. It has arrived at the station. You have to make the lower bracket run, which can be very tricky. There's a lot of things that I feel like could have been on their minds, and we can't really pinpoint all of them, but I agree that it would have been good to at least see them try to get another Rush matchup for one more map. You know, I think Gibraltar was actually a pretty good pick, considering that was one of the closer, it was the closest map of the series. Blizzard World, I feel like there's something, like, I'm not necessarily saying, like, pick King's Row, that seems like the default for Rush, but there are other options there that you could have tried it on to try to see if maybe outside of Control, where it's more like just head-to-head matchups the entire time, on a payload map where the objective is, you know, kind of the main objective, you know, there's less room on it. It's just a cart, you know, positioning, all those different things. It's very different than Control, where it's a lot more hectic and everyone's running at each other the entire time.
And we did mention the play from Psycho already. Obviously, that was something we were expecting to be strong, given their Overwatch League status, you know, attached to Vancouver Titans. So, Jag, going forward for Trust the Process into the later stages of this tournament, who else are you going to really keep eyes on as this tournament progresses?
That's a good question. I was really impressed by Dala today. I feel like on the main support role, they really were able to hold their own ground against someone like Liar, who is known for being one of the best main supports in Tier 2. They looked really good on the brig. I think one of the best moments of the Lijiang Tower is actually when they got the counter environmental elimination onto Lyre after Lyre took someone out. I can't remember who it was, but that kind of set up the pace of the game. It's like, well, anything you can do, I can do better. And, you know, they definitely were not a name that you mention quite a bit. I feel like that's kind of how main supports work. There's like two reasons you mentioned main support. They either get like a triple boop elimination or they are not doing very well. Generally, if you're just having a very solid performance, you kind of fade into the background a little bit. That's just how it is sometimes when you're playing the backline. I think they looked really, really clean today.
For sure. And with that, we do have Dice Amplify versus Dysfunctional coming up. Before that, we are going to take a quick break, but we will be right back with the next match in the Questline Open Tournament. Next match in the Questline Open Tournament.